The night sky over Earth stretched endlessly, dotted with countless stars that twinkled like tiny diamonds scattered across a velvet canvas. It was a peaceful evening, one where people gazed up at the heavens without any idea of what was about to unfold. But deep in space, far beyond the reach of human telescopes or satellites, something extraordinary had been happening for centuries. A race known as the Zixorians had been watching Earth from afar. These aliens weren't new to exploration. They had traveled across galaxies, studied countless planets, and encountered dozens of intelligent species. Yet, there was something peculiar about humanity, a species so primitive yet strangely advanced. The Zixorian commander, Vrenx 9, stood on the bridge of his massive flagship, staring at the holographic projection of Earth spinning silently before him. His advisors flanked him, their glowing green eyes reflecting unease. "They are still so basic," Vrenx 9 muttered under his breath, more to himself than anyone else. He tapped a claw-like finger against the console, studying the data streaming in from their long-range scanners. Humans were building skyscrapers, flying planes, sending rockets into orbit, but none of it compared to the technological marvels the Zixorians possessed. And yet, there was something unsettling about them, something unpredictable. One of the advisors stepped forward hesitantly. "Commander, we've observed their progress for centuries now. Their rate of advancement is unlike anything we've seen before. Shouldn't we intervene before they become too dangerous?" Vrenx 9 turned sharply, his sharp teeth flashing briefly in irritation. "Dangerous? Look at them." He gestured toward the hologram, which showed images of humans bustling around cities, driving cars, and using smartphones. They're soft creatures. They fight among themselves constantly. They destroy their own planet. How could they possibly pose a threat to us? But even as he spoke, doubt lingered in his mind. There was no denying that humanity's pace of innovation was alarming. Just a few hundred years ago, humans were riding horses and lighting fires with sticks. Now they had computers, nuclear weapons, and spacecraft capable of leaving their atmosphere. What would they achieve in another century? Or two? The thought sent a chill down Vrenx 9's spine. Unbeknownst to the Zixorians, however, humanity wasn't quite as primitive as they believed. Hidden beneath layers of secrecy, governments around the world had been preparing for this moment for decades. It all started when scientists intercepted faint alien signals drifting through space. At first, many dismissed them as random noise or glitches in equipment. But then came fragments, tiny bits of information embedded within those signals, fragments that hinted at alien technology. Secret organizations sprang into action, pooling resources and knowledge to decipher these fragments. Slowly but surely, they pieced together enough to understand how certain alien technologies worked. Reverse engineering became their focus, and over time, humanity began developing its own versions of advanced systems. Weapons, shields, propulsion. Engines. It was slow going, but every step brought them closer to defending themselves against whatever might come their way. What the Zixorians didn't know, and what terrified them when they eventually found out, was that humanity hadn't stopped at small-scale experiments. No, humanity had gone bigger, much bigger. Beneath the surface of the Earth, hidden facilities housed projects so classified that only a handful of people knew about them. One such project was codenamed Starshield. Its goal? To construct an entire fleet of star destroyers, massive warships designed not just to defend Earth, but to strike fear into the hearts of any potential invaders. Deep underground, engineers worked tirelessly, welding metal plates, calibrating energy cores, and testing weapon systems. Each ship took years to complete, but by the time the Zixorians entered Earth's solar system, 3 star destroyers were fully operational. They loomed silently in underground hangars, waiting for the day they would rise into the skies above. Back aboard the Zixorian flagship, tension simmered. Vrenx 9 paced nervously, his tail flicking behind him like a restless animal. Despite his earlier bravado, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Why hadn't the humans noticed their presence yet? Surely with all their satellites, and telescopes, they must have detected the fleet by now. Unless they already knew and were planning something. His fears were confirmed when alarms blared suddenly throughout the ship. Red lights flashed, casting eerie shadows across the metallic walls. Crew members scrambled to their stations, shouting orders and checking monitors. "Report!" Vrank 9 barked, rushing to the main screen. "Energy signatures detected, Commander." One of the technicians exclaimed, his voice trembling. "Multiple sources, originating from Earth's atmosphere." Before anyone could respond, the unthinkable happened. High above Earth's cities, the skies began to part, not with clouds or storms, but with sheer force. Massive shapes emerged slowly, breaking through the veil of blue and revealing themselves to the universe. They were enormous, colossal vessels that dwarfed anything the Zixorians had ever seen. Sleek and menacing, their surfaces gleamed under the sunlight, while their engines pulsed with raw power. Panic spread like wildfire among the Zixorian crew. Some froze in shock, unable to comprehend what they were seeing. Others frantically tried to analyze the ship's capabilities, but their instruments struggled to keep up. These weren't ordinary spacecraft. They were titans of destruction, built not just for defense, but for domination. Vrank 9 stared at the screen, his jaw hanging open. This wasn't possible. Humanity shouldn't have access to this level of technology. Yet here it was, undeniable proof that they had been hiding something monumental. The realization hit him like a punch to the gut. They had underestimated humans, badly. On board one of the newly revealed star destroyers, Captain Elena Rodriguez leaned back in her command chair, a satisfied smirk playing on her lips. She had waited years for this moment, for humanity to finally reveal its true strength to the galaxy. Around her, the crew moved with precision, each member focused on their task. The hum of machinery filled the air, blending with the low murmur of voices. Elena glanced at the main viewport where Earth's curvature stretched below them. She felt a surge of pride knowing that her team had played a crucial role in making this day happen. For too long, humanity had lived in fear of the unknown, unsure if they'd survive an encounter with extraterrestrial life. But now, they were ready. More than ready. "Status report," she said calmly, her voice cutting through the controlled chaos of the bridge. "All systems online, Captain," replied Lieutenant Harper, her fingers dancing across the keyboard. "Weapons charged, shields at maximum capacity. We're good to go." Elena nodded, her gaze shifting to the communications officer. "Patch me through to the alien fleet. Let's see who we're dealing with." Moments later, her image appeared on screens aboard every Zixorian vessel. Her dark hair framed her face neatly, and her uniform bore the insignia of the United Earth Defense Fleet. Behind her, rows of soldiers stood at attention, their expressions unwavering. Elena leaned slightly forward, her piercing brown eyes locking onto the camera lens. "This is Captain Rodriguez of the United Earth Defense Fleet," she began, her tone firm and authoritative. "You've entered our solar system uninvited. State your intentions immediately." Silence followed. On the other end, Vrank 9 fumbled for words, caught completely off guard. Never in his wildest nightmares had he imagined being addressed like this by humans. His advisors exchanged nervous glances, unsure of how to proceed. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Vrank 9 stammered out a response. We mean no harm," he said, his voice quivering. "We are explorers, seeking knowledge." Elena raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. "Explorers don't sneak into someone else's territory without announcing themselves. Try again." The weight of her words pressed down on the Zixorian crew. They had always assumed humans would be easy targets, fragile beings who wouldn't stand a chance against their superior technology. But this woman, this captain, she radiated confidence and strength. It was clear that humanity had changed, evolved, and they were no longer willing to tolerate threats. As the standoff continued, Vrank 9 realized the gravity of their situation. Humanity wasn't afraid anymore. In fact, they were daring him to make a move. The question was, what would he do next? The silence between Earth and the Zixorian fleet stretched like a taut wire, ready to snap at any moment. Captain Elena Rodriguez sat calmly on the bridge of her Star Destroyer, her hands resting lightly on the armrests of her command chair. Her eyes never left the main screen, where the image of the alien commander, Vrenk 9, flickered nervously. His glowing green eyes darted around as if searching for an escape route, but there was none. Humanity had cornered him, and he knew it. Back aboard the Zixorian flagship, chaos simmered just beneath the surface. Vrenk 9's advisors whispered urgently among themselves, their voices overlapping in panicked tones. "Commander, we cannot let them think we are weak," one urged, his claws clicking against the console. "We must assert dominance now." Another advisor shook his head frantically. "No, look at their ships. They're far more advanced than we anticipated. If we provoke them, we risk annihilation." Vrenk 9 clenched his teeth, torn between pride and survival. He wanted to believe his people were superior, that they could crush this upstart species with ease. But the reality staring back at him was undeniable. Humanity had grown stronger than anyone imagined. Their star destroyers loomed menacingly in space, each one bristling with weapons capable of reducing entire planets to rubble. For the first time in centuries, fear gripped the heart of the Zixorian fleet. Elena watched the hesitation play out on the screen, with quiet satisfaction. She didn't need to say another word. Her presence alone spoke volumes. Behind her, Lieutenant Harper monitored the ship's systems, ensuring everything remained at peak efficiency. The rest of the crew stood by, their faces masks of determination. They weren't just representing themselves, they were standing for all of humanity. This wasn't just a confrontation, it was a statement. A declaration that Earth would no longer cower before threats from beyond the stars. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Vrenk 9 managed to speak again. His voice wavered slightly, betraying his unease. "Captain Rodriguez," he began, stumbling over her name as though unfamiliar with human speech patterns. "We did not intend to intrude. Our mission is peaceful. We seek only knowledge." Elena tilted her head slightly, her expression unreadable. "Peaceful?" she echoed, letting the word hang in the air. "You entered our solar system without permission, bypassed our defenses, and parked your fleet right outside our atmosphere. That doesn't sound very peaceful to me." Vrenk 9 flinched visibly, his tail twitching nervously behind him. "It was a misunderstanding," he stammered. "We did not realize you had detected us." "Oh, we detected you," Elena replied coolly. "And trust me, Commander, you don't want to know how much we've learned about you since then." The implication sent ripples of panic through the Zixorian crew. Had humanity somehow hacked into their databases? Intercepted their communications? The thought was terrifying. Vrenk 9 swallowed hard, trying to regain control of the situation. "What do you propose, Captain? How can we resolve this misunderstanding?" Elena leaned forward slightly, her gaze piercing. "Simple. Leave. Now. And don't come back unless you're invited." Her words hit like a hammer blow. Never, in their history, had the Zixorians been ordered around by a lesser species. Pride clashed with survival instincts as Vrenk 9 wrestled with his decision. On one hand, retreating would be seen as cowardice, a disgrace he might never recover from. On the other hand, staying meant risking outright war, and based on what he'd seen so far, humanity wasn't bluffing. As the debate raged silently within Vrenk 9's mind, Elena decided to drive her point home. She gestured to someone off-screen, and moments later, the view shifted. Instead of her face, the Zixorians now saw live footage of Earth's skies. Dozens of smaller fighter craft zipped through the atmosphere, performing intricate maneuvers that showcased their speed and agility. Then came the real showstopper. 2 additional Star Destroyers rose into view, flanking the original vessel like colossal guardians. The sight was overwhelming. Even Vrenk 9, who prided himself on remaining composed under pressure, couldn't help but gape. Each Star Destroyer dwarfed his own flagship, their sleek designs exuding both power and precision. Weapons pods glowed faintly along their hulls, ready to unleash devastation at a moment's notice. For a species that had spent millennia conquering, others, the Zixorians, suddenly found themselves facing something far greater than they'd ever encountered. Consider this a warning. Elena's voice cut through the transmission once more. If you try anything, even a single hostile move, we'll respond. And I promise you, Commander, you won't like the consequences. Rank 9's advisors exchanged frantic looks, their earlier bravado replaced by sheer terror. One of them whispered urgently, "We have to retreat, we're outnumbered and outgunned." Another chimed in, his voice trembling. "But what will the Council say? What will our people think?" Rank 9 ignored them, focusing instead on the screen. Elena's face reappeared, calm and resolute. There was no anger in her expression, no malice, just cold, calculated certainty. It was clear she wasn't bluffing. Whatever humanity had built, whatever secrets they'd kept hidden, they were prepared to use them if necessary. With a heavy sigh, Rank 9 made his decision. "Very well, Captain Rodriguez," he said, forcing his voice to remain steady despite the turmoil inside him. "We shall withdraw. But know this. We will remember this encounter." Elena smirked faintly. "Oh, I'm counting on it." Without another word, the transmission ended. Back on the Zixorian flagship, orders flew across the bridge as the crew scrambled to execute their retreat. Engines roared to life and the massive fleet turned slowly, beginning its journey away from Earth. As they disappeared into the depths of space, a collective sigh of relief washed over the humans watching from their star destroyers. "Well, that went better than expected," Lieutenant Harper remarked, breaking the tense silence on the bridge. Elena chuckled softly, leaning back in her chair. "They underestimated us. Big mistake." For the next several hours, the crew worked tirelessly to ensure the Zixorians truly left and didn't attempt any last-minute tricks. Surveillance drones tracked their movements until they vanished, completely from Earth's vicinity. Only then did Elena allow herself to relax, even if just a little. Meanwhile, news of the encounter spread rapidly among the top levels of Earth's governments. Secret meetings were convened, and leaders debated how best to handle the aftermath. Should they reveal the truth to the public, or keep it classified to avoid mass panic? Opinions varied widely, but one thing was certain: humanity's place in the universe had changed forever. Days passed, and life on Earth continued as usual for most people anyway. Few suspected that their planet had just stared down an alien invasion and emerged victorious without firing a single shot. But those in the know understood the significance of what had happened. Humanity had taken its first step onto the galactic stage, and it had done so with authority. In deep space, the Zixorian fleet limped homeward, their spirits crushed. Rumors of Earth's defiance spread quickly among the crew, growing more exaggerated with each retelling. By the time they reached their home planet, tales of unstoppable star destroyers and fearless human warriors had become legend. The Council listened grimly as Rank 9 delivered his report, his shame evident in every word. "This cannot happen again," one council member declared angrily. "We must prepare for the possibility of future conflict. Earth cannot be allowed to grow any stronger." Others nodded in agreement, though privately many wondered if it was already too late. Humanity had proven itself unpredictable, resourceful, and unafraid to stand its ground. Could anyone truly hope to conquer such a species? Back on Earth, Elena received accolades from world leaders, though she accepted them modestly. To her, this wasn't about glory. It was about protecting her planet and ensuring its future. Still, she couldn't help but smile when she saw the reactions of ordinary citizens once snippets of the incident leaked online. Social media exploded with memes and jokes celebrating humanity's triumph. Hashtags like the Never Fight with humans trended globally, accompanied by cartoon depictions of aliens fleeing in terror. One evening, as Elena stood on the observation deck of her star destroyer, gazing out at the vast expanse of stars, she reflected on what had transpired. Humanity had faced its first true test against an alien threat and passed with flying colors. But she knew this was only the beginning. Space was vast, and countless dangers lurked beyond the horizon. Yet for the first time in history, humanity wasn't afraid. It was ready. And somewhere, light years away, Frank Nine lay awake in his quarters, haunted by the memory of Earth's skies parting to reveal those monstrous ships. He muttered to himself in the darkness, repeating the same phrase over and over. Never fight with humans. The days following the Zixorian retreat were a whirlwind of activity for Captain Elena Rodriguez. Back on Earth, governments scrambled to decide how much of the truth should be revealed to the public. Debates raged in secret chambers as world leaders weighed the risks of transparency against the potential chaos of misinformation. Meanwhile, social media buzzed with theories, memes, and rumors about the mysterious lights in the sky. Some claimed aliens had attacked. Others insisted it was all a movie stunt or a government conspiracy. The truth, buried under layers of secrecy, remained elusive. On board her star destroyer, Elena monitored global communications closely. She knew that humanity's reaction to this event would shape its future interactions with extraterrestrial life. If handled poorly, fear could spiral into panic. But if managed wisely, this moment could unite Earth like never before. For now, she focused on ensuring her crew stayed vigilant. Though the Zixorians had fled, there was no guarantee they, or another alien race, wouldn't return. Elena walked through the corridors of the ship, her boots clicking softly against the metal floor. Soldiers saluted as she passed, their faces filled with pride and purpose. They had accomplished something monumental, deterring an advanced alien fleet without firing a single shot. Yet Elena couldn't shake the feeling that this victory was only temporary. Humanity had taken its first step onto the galactic stage, but the universe was vast, and not everyone out there would be as easily intimidated as the Zixorians. Back on Earth, ordinary citizens began piecing together fragments of the truth. Amateur astronomers shared blurry footage of the star destroyers rising into the atmosphere. Conspiracy theorists dissected satellite images, pointing out anomalies that seemed too deliberate to ignore. Slowly but surely, whispers of alien contact spread across the globe. Governments tried to suppress the information, issuing vague statements about atmospheric phenomena or experimental technology. But the more they denied, the more people demanded answers. One evening, Elena received a call from General Carter, the head of the United Earth Defense Fleet. His face appeared on a holographic screen in her quarters, his expression grim. "Captain Rodriguez," he began, skipping formalities. "We've got a problem." "What kind of problem?" Elena asked, sitting up straighter. "The leaks are getting worse," Carter explained. "People are starting to connect the dots. Social media is lighting up with hashtags like "unwanted aliens are real" and "want and never fight with humans." It's only a matter of time before someone uncovers classified files. Elena frowned. "You want me to address the public?" Carter hesitated, then nodded. "It's unavoidable at this point. We need to control the narrative before it spirals out of hand. You're the face of this operation, Elena. If anyone can inspire trust and calm, it's you." Elena sighed, running a hand through her dark hair. Public appearances weren't her strong suit, but she understood the necessity. "All right," she said finally. "I'll do it. But we need to make sure the message is clear. Humanity is strong, united, and prepared for whatever comes next." The announcement came 2 days later. Elena stood on a stage in front of a massive crowd gathered outside the United Nations headquarters. Cameras flashed, capturing her every move. Behind her loomed a giant screen displaying the emblem of the United Earth Defense Fleet, a stylized globe encircled by stars. Her uniform was immaculate, her posture confident. As she stepped up to the podium, the murmuring crowd fell silent. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice steady and clear. "For decades, humanity has looked to the stars and wondered, are we alone? Today I stand before you to confirm what many have suspected for years. We are not alone." Gasps rippled through the audience. Reporters leaned forward, pens poised while millions watched live broadcasts around the world. Elena paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. "Recently, An alien fleet entered our solar system uninvited, she continued. Their intentions remain unclear, but one thing is certain. They underestimated us. Humanity has reached a new era, an era where we no longer cower in fear of the unknown. Our scientists, engineers, and soldiers have worked tirelessly to ensure that Earth is protected. And when those aliens saw our strength, they chose to leave peacefully. Cheers erupted from the crowd, growing louder with each passing second. Flags waved and chants of Earth echoed through the air. Elena raised a hand, signaling for silence. When the noise subsided, she spoke again. This is not the end. It is only the beginning. Space is vast, and we cannot predict who or what we may encounter in the future. But know this: humanity will face every challenge with courage and unity. Together we will explore the stars, defend our home, and prove that Earth is a force to be reckoned with. The speech ended with thunderous applause. News outlets replayed clips of Elena's address endlessly, analyzing every word. Memes featuring her stern expression with captions like, "Don't mess with Earth," flooded social media. Merchandise bearing slogans such as "United we stand" flew off shelves. Overnight, Elena became a symbol of hope and resilience, not just for Earth, but potentially for the entire galaxy. But while humanity celebrated, tension simmered elsewhere. In deep space, the Zexorian fleet limped back to their homeworld, their pride shattered. Rumors of Earth's defiance had already reached other species, sparking curiosity and fear. Among these species was the Krillian Empire, a ruthless collective, known for conquering weaker civilizations and assimilating their resources. When news of humanity's star destroyers reached them, Emperor Xyloth Thor called an emergency council meeting. The council chamber was dimly lit, its walls adorned with trophies taken from conquered worlds. Xyloth IV sat atop a crystalline throne, his crimson eyes glowing ominously. Before him stood his advisors, their heads bowed in deference. "Tell me everything you know about this Earth," Xyloth IV commanded, his voice low and menacing. One advisor stepped forward, clutching a datapad. "They are a young species, Your Majesty, but highly adaptable. Recent reports suggest they possess advanced technology, including warships, capable of rivaling even the Zexorians," Xyloth IV sneered. "Rivaling? The Zexorians are cowards. Their retreat proves as much. What makes you think these humans are any different? They forced the Zexorians to flee without firing a shot," the advisor replied cautiously. Their leader, a female named Rodriguez, issued a direct warning. Witnesses describe her as formidable. Xyloth IV leaned forward, his claws digging into the armrests of his throne. Formidable? A mere human dares challenge the might of the Krillian Empire? This is unacceptable. Another advisor cleared his throat nervously. "Your Majesty, perhaps caution is warranted. If their ships are as powerful as rumored—" "Silence!" Xyloth IV roared, slamming his fist against the throne. "Caution is for the weak. Humanity must be taught a lesson. Send our fleet to Earth immediately. Crush them before they grow stronger." The room fell silent save for the hum of machinery. No one dared argue further. Orders were issued, and within hours the Krillian fleet set course for Earth. Unlike the cautious Zexorians, the Krillians were brutal and relentless. They left destruction in their wake wherever they went, sparing nothing and no one. Back on Earth, Elena sensed trouble brewing. Intelligence reports indicated unusual activity near the edge of the solar system. Long-range scanners picked up faint energy signatures consistent with alien vessels, but these readings were far larger than anything they'd encountered before. Elena convened an emergency meeting with her senior officers aboard the flagship. "We've confirmed multiple ships approaching," Lieutenant Harper reported, pointing to a holographic map. "At least 20 capital-class vessels accompanied by smaller escorts." Elena studied the data, her brow furrowed. "That's not a scouting mission. It's an invasion force. Who are they?" Harper hesitated. "Our analysts believe it's the Krillians. They're notorious for wiping out civilizations they deem inferior." A heavy silence settled over the room. Everyone understood the stakes. The Zixorians had been timid. The Krillians would show no mercy. If humanity failed to stop them, Earth would face annihilation. Elena straightened, her resolve hardening. Then we fight. Alert all Star Destroyers. Mobilize every available fighter squadron. We won't let them get close enough to harm our planet. As preparations intensified, Elena addressed her crew directly. Standing on the bridge, she looked each soldier in the eye. This isn't just about protecting Earth. It's about proving to the galaxy that humanity stands united. Whatever happens next, remember this. We don't back down. Not today. Not ever. The Krillian fleet arrived 3 days later, their ships blotting out the stars as they approached Earth. Their flagship dwarfed even the largest Star Destroyer, its jagged design resembling a monstrous predator ready to strike. Emperor Xyloth IV broadcast a message to humanity, his voice dripping with arrogance. Humans, he sneered, his image appearing on screens across Earth's defense fleet. You have defied the natural order long enough. Surrender your planet and we may grant you mercy. Resist, and you will perish. Elena's response was swift and unwavering. Your threats mean nothing to us. Leave now, or face the consequences. Xyloth IV laughed cruelly. Consequences? From primitives like you? Very well. Witness the power of the Krillian M. The Krillian fleet loomed menacingly just outside Earth's atmosphere, their ships casting long shadows over the planet below. Each vessel bristled with weapons, glowing faintly as they powered up for an assault. The air crackled with tension, both on Earth and in space. Humanity had faced its first alien encounter without firing a shot, but this time there would be no peaceful resolution. The Krillians weren't here to negotiate or retreat. They were here to conquer. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of her Star Destroyer's bridge, her eyes fixed on the main viewport. The massive flagship of the Krillian Empire dominated the view, its jagged edges resembling the teeth of some ancient predator. Around it, smaller escort ships darted like insects preparing for combat. Elena took a deep breath, steadying herself. She knew what was coming, and she also knew that humanity's survival depended on how well they performed in the next few hours. Status report, she commanded, her voice cutting through the hum of activity on the bridge. All systems online. Captain, Lieutenant Harper replied promptly, her fingers flying across the console. Shields at maximum capacity. Weapons armed and ready. Fighter squadrons deployed and awaiting orders. Elena nodded, glancing at the holographic display hovering above the central table. It showed Earth surrounded by 3 Star Destroyers, each positioned strategically to form a defensive perimeter. Dozens of smaller fighter craft zipped between them, creating a network of protection. Despite being outnumbered, humanity's forces were organized and disciplined, a testament to years of preparation. Behind her, soldiers manned their stations, their expressions grim but determined. This wasn't just another mission, it was the fight of their lives. For many, this was personal. Their families, friends, and homes lay beneath the skies they were sworn to defend. Failure wasn't an option. On board the Krillian flagship, Emperor Xyloth IV watched the human fleet with disdain. His crimson eyes narrowed as he studied the Star Destroyers, their sleek designs radiating strength and defiance. He couldn't understand how such primitive creatures could possess technology capable of challenging his empire. But even more infuriating was their audacity, their refusal to bow down before him. They dare oppose us? Xyloth IV growled, turning to his advisors. They think these toys can stop the might of the Krillian Empire? One advisor hesitated, then spoke cautiously. Your Majesty, their ships are larger than anticipated, and their firepower appears significant. Perhaps nothing, Xyloth IV snapped, his voice echoing through the chamber. We are superior in every way. Crush them. With a flick of his clawed hand, he signaled the attack. The Krillian fleet surged forward, their engines roaring as they closed the distance to Earth's defenders. Plasma cannons charged, energy beams crackled, and missiles locked onto targets. Within moments, the void of space erupted into chaos. Back aboard Elena's Star Destroyer, Alarms blared as enemy fire streaked toward them. Shields flared brightly, absorbing the impact of the initial barrage. The crew worked frantically, adjusting trajectories, recalibrating defenses, and returning fire with precision. Bright flashes illuminated the darkness as plasma bolts collided mid-space, creating shockwaves that rippled outward. "Target their lead ship," Elena ordered, pointing to the monstrous Krillian flagship on the viewport. "If we can disable it, the rest will falter." "Yes, ma'am," Harper responded, relaying the command to the weapons team. The Star Destroyer shuddered slightly as it unleashed a volley of high-energy beams. One struck the Krillian flagship's hull, leaving a scorch mark but failing to penetrate its thick armor. Another hit closer to its engine bay, causing minor damage but not enough to cripple it. Still, the strike sent a clear message. Humanity wasn't going down without a fight. The battle intensified as both sides exchanged salvos. Krillian fighters swarmed around the human fleet, attempting to breach their defenses. Earth's own fighter pilots maneuvered skillfully, dodging enemy fire while launching counterattacks. Explosions lit up the sky as ships from both fleets were destroyed, sending debris spiraling into the void. Elena gripped the railing of the command platform, her knuckles white. "Harper, status of our shields?" "Holding steady at 60%. "Captain," Harper replied, her voice strained. "But we're taking heavy hits. If this keeps up—" "We'll hold," Elena interrupted firmly. "Divert auxiliary power to the shields. And tell our fighters to focus on those escorts. They're too close." As the order was relayed, Earth's fighter squadrons regrouped and launched a coordinated assault on the smaller Krillian ships. Their agility gave them an edge, allowing them to weave through enemy formations and deliver devastating blows. One by one, the Krillian escorts exploded, their wreckage tumbling lifelessly through space. Emperor Xyloth IV watched the destruction unfold with mounting fury. "What is happening? Why are they still standing?" he demanded, slamming his fist against the armrest of his throne. "Your Majesty, their tactics are unconventional," an advisor stammered. "They're targeting our weakest points and exploiting gaps in our formation," Xyloth IV snarled. "Then adapt, outmaneuver them, show them why the Krillian Empire rules the galaxy." His fleet adjusted its strategy, spreading out to surround the Star Destroyers. But humanity's defenders anticipated the move. Elena's second-in-command, Commander Patel, called in reinforcements from Earth's orbital defense platforms. Hidden satellites armed with railguns emerged from stealth mode, raining precise shots onto the encroaching Krillian ships. Several were obliterated instantly, their crews vaporized before they could react. Despite their losses, the Krillians pressed on, driven by Xyloth V's relentless determination. Their flagship unleashed a devastating salvo of plasma torpedoes, forcing the Star Destroyers to scatter temporarily. The sudden maneuver left gaps in Earth's defenses, giving the Krillians an opportunity to push closer to the planet. "Captain, they're breaking through," Harper shouted urgently. "If they reach Earth's surface, they won't," Elena said sharply. "Reroute all available power to the frontal shields. Prepare for ramming speed." The bridge crew froze, staring at her in disbelief. Ramming an enemy ship was risky, even suicidal, but Elena's tone left no room for argument. Everyone sprang into action, diverting resources and calculating trajectories. Meanwhile, back on Earth, civilians watched anxiously as live footage of the battle streamed across news channels. Cities went dark as governments redirected power to support the defense fleet. People gathered in streets and parks, gazing upward at the flashes of light illuminating the night sky. Prayers were whispered, fists clenched, and tears shed. Humanity held its collective breath, hoping against hope that their defenders would prevail. In space, Elena's Star Destroyer accelerated toward the Krillian flagship, its engines blazing. The two behemoths hurtled toward each other, closing the gap rapidly. At the last possible moment, Elena issued a final command: "Fire everything we've got." The Star Destroyer unleashed a concentrated barrage of energy beams, missiles, and plasma torpedoes directly into the Krillian flagship's weakened hull. The impact was catastrophic. Massive explosions tore through the alien vessel, ripping it apart piece by piece. Emperor Xyloth IV barely had time to scream before his throne disintegrated in a burst of flame. Without their leader, the remaining Krillian ships faltered. Some attempted to flee, while others fought desperately to avenge their fallen emperor. But humanity's momentum was unstoppable now. With renewed vigor, Earth's forces pushed forward, systematically dismantling the remnants of the Krillian fleet. By dawn, the battle was over. The skies above Earth grew quiet once more, save for the gentle hum of drifting debris. On the bridge of her Star Destroyer, Elena exhaled slowly, leaning heavily against the railing. Her uniform was singed, her face streaked with sweat and soot, but her eyes gleamed with triumph. They had won. Against overwhelming odds, humanity had defended its home. News of the victory spread quickly, sparking celebrations across the globe. Fireworks lit up city skylines, songs of gratitude filled the air, and strangers embraced in the streets. Social media overflowed with messages of pride and unity. Humanity had proven itself not just resilient, but unbreakable. But as the euphoria settled, Elena knew the war wasn't truly finished. The universe was vast and countless threats still lurked in the shadows. This battle had been a test and humanity had passed. But the galaxy wouldn't forget Earth anytime soon. Other species would hear tales of the day humanity stood firm against invaders. Some might see it as a warning, others might view it as a challenge. Standing on the observation deck later that evening, Elena gazed out at the stars. The scars of battle lingered in the form of drifting wreckage, but beyond them stretched infinite possibilities. Humanity had taken its place among the stars, not as victims, but as warriors. Whatever came next, Elena vowed silently, they would face it together, and somewhere, light years away, whispers of Earth's defiance began to circulate among alien civilizations. Tales of the Star Destroyers and their fearless captain traveled faster than light, carrying a single universal message. Never fight with humans. The aftermath of the battle left Earth both scarred and triumphant. In space, drifting debris from shattered Krillian ships floated silently, a grim reminder of the cost of victory. On the planet below, cities buzzed with energy as humanity celebrated its first major galactic triumph. Streets were lined with banners bearing slogans like Earth United and Never Back Down, while fireworks painted the night skies in vibrant colors. For the first time in history, humanity truly felt like a united species, one that could stand tall against any threat, no matter how daunting. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of her Star Destroyer, staring out at the stars. The adrenaline of battle had faded, replaced by a quiet exhaustion. She hadn't slept in days, but she didn't feel tired, not emotionally at least. Her mind raced with thoughts of what lay ahead. The Krillians had been defeated, but their arrival was proof that Earth wasn't alone in the universe, and likely wouldn't remain unbothered for long. Other alien races would hear about this encounter, and not all of them would react with fear or caution. Some might see humanity's defiance as a challenge worth pursuing. Behind her, Commander Patel approached quietly, his boots clicking softly against the metal floor. "Captain," he said, his tone respectful, "the crew is ready for your address." Elena turned to face him, nodding slowly. "Thank you, Commander. Give me a moment." Patel hesitated, then added, "You've done something incredible, Captain. Something no one thought possible. Humanity owes you everything." Elena smiled faintly, though her expression carried a hint of sadness. "It wasn't just me, Patel. It was everyone. The engineers who built these ships, the soldiers who fought. Alongside us, the civilians back on Earth who kept believing even when things looked bleak. This victory belongs to all of us." With that, she followed Patel to the communications room, where cameras and microphones awaited her. Moments later, her image appeared on screens across the globe, on televisions, smartphones, and giant billboards. In city squares, people paused mid-celebration to listen, their faces filled with anticipation. "People of Earth," Elena began, her voice calm but powerful. "Today, we have proven ourselves stronger than anyone ever imagined. We faced an enemy far greater than ourselves, and we emerged victorious, not through luck but through courage, unity, and determination. Cheers erupted, but Elena held up a hand, signaling for silence. When the noise subsided, she continued, "This is not the end of our journey, it's only the beginning. Space is vast and there are countless civilizations out there. Some may seek peace, others may come with hostility. But whatever comes next, we will face it together. As one people, as one Earth." Her words resonated deeply, sparking a sense of pride and purpose among billions. Leaders from around the world issued statements praising Elena and her crew, calling for global cooperation to prepare for future encounters. Scientists worked tirelessly to analyze captured Krillian technology, hoping to learn more about their enemies and perhaps gain insights into other potential threats. But beyond Earth's borders, news of the battle spread quickly. Alien species who had dismissed humanity as primitive now viewed them with newfound respect and caution. Tales of Earth's star destroyers and their fearless captain became legend, whispered in council chambers and taverns alike. The Zixorians, still recovering from their own humiliating retreat, listened intently, wondering if they had made the right decision by fleeing. Other races, emboldened by curiosity, began sending probes toward Earth's solar system, eager to observe this strange new player in the galactic arena. On board her star destroyer, Elena received reports of increased activity near the edges of human-controlled space. Long-range scanners detected small fleets approaching cautiously, their intentions unclear. Diplomatic envoys, spies, or something else entirely. She ordered her crew to maintain vigilance, knowing that humanity's greatest test might still lie ahead. Weeks passed and life on Earth gradually returned to normal, or as normal as it could be after such a monumental event. Governments established the United Earth Defense Council, UEDC, a coalition tasked with overseeing humanity's expansion into space. Research facilities sprang up worldwide, dedicated to advancing technology and preparing for future conflicts. Meanwhile, ordinary citizens embraced their new identity as members of a galactic community. Schools taught lessons about the battle, inspiring children to dream of becoming explorers, scientists, and soldiers. Merchandise featuring Elena's likeness became ubiquitous, with posters, action figures, and even video games celebrating her heroism. Yet despite the adulation, Elena remained humble. She gave interviews reluctantly, always deflecting praise onto her crew and the countless individuals who had contributed to humanity's success. When asked during one particularly memorable talk show what advice she'd give to future generations, she simply smiled and said, "Remember who we are. We're survivors. We adapt, we innovate, and most importantly, we never give up." As months turned into years, humanity's presence in the galaxy grew steadily. Exploratory missions ventured beyond Earth's solar system, mapping star systems, and searching for signs of intelligent life. Trade agreements were forged with friendly alien species, while defensive pacts ensured mutual protection against hostile ones. Earth's reputation as a formidable power solidified, earning both allies and rivals. Back aboard her star destroyer, Elena eventually retired from active duty, passing the torch to a new generation of leaders. She spent her days mentoring young cadets, sharing stories of the battles she'd fought and the lessons she'd learned. Though officially retired, she remained a symbol of hope and resilience, a living reminder of what humanity could achieve when united. One evening, years after the battle with the Krillians, Elena returned to the observation deck of her old ship. Now decommissioned, it served as a museum, preserving the legacy of humanity's first great victory. Tourists wandered through its halls, marveling at the technology and artifacts displayed within. Elena stood alone, gazing out at the stars. Once more, she thought about the Krillians, the Zixorians, and all the other species she'd encountered or heard about in her lifetime. Some had been enemies, others neutral observers, and a few tentative friends. But none had forgotten Earth. None would underestimate humanity again. A soft voice interrupted her thoughts. "Captain Rodriguez?" Elena turned to see a young girl, standing nearby, clutching a worn notebook. Her eyes sparkled with admiration. "I'm sorry to bother you," the girl said shyly. "But could I ask you something?" Elena knelt down, smiling warmly. "Of course, what's on your mind?" The girl hesitated, then blurted out, "Do you think aliens will ever attack us again?" Elena chuckled softly, placing a reassuring hand on the girl's shoulder. "Probably," she admitted. "But if they do, we'll be ready, because that's who we are. No matter what happens, we'll stand together, and we'll fight for our home." The girl nodded earnestly, scribbling notes in her book. As she ran off to join her family, Elena rose to her feet, watching her go with a mixture of pride and nostalgia. Somewhere deep inside, she knew the girl, and countless others like her, would carry the torch forward. They would explore the stars, forge alliances, and defend Earth with the same determination that had defined their ancestors. And so, humanity stepped boldly into the unknown, guided by the lessons of its past and the promise of its future. The universe was vast, unpredictable, and full of challenges, but one thing was certain: humanity would face them head-on, armed with courage, ingenuity, and an unshakable belief in its own strength. Somewhere, light years away, whispers of Earth's defiance continued to spread. Tales of the Star Destroyers and their fearless captain inspired awe and caution. Across the galaxy, these words echoed, carrying a universal truth: never fight with humans,